You ever have that feeling where you're doing everything right for your health, but you're still struggling with brain fog or anxiety or just feeling off? Well, today we're going to dive into some pretty challenging ideas, all from Anthony Williams' Brain Saver. It's a book that really makes you question what we think we know about our own brains. The book kicks off with this really powerful idea. Picture yourself as a hiker. You've prepared for this huge journey your whole life, packing everything you've ever been told you'll need. But then a crisis hits. You reach into that backpack for something, anything, to help, and it's empty. There's nothing there. It's a striking way to think about how our health knowledge can fail us. And that really gets to the core question here, doesn't it? Why, with all the information out there, all the studies, the nonstop health trends, the latest biohacks, do so many of us still feel like that hiker, totally lost and unprepared the moment real symptoms show up?
Okay, so let's really unpack this empty backpack idea. The book uses this not just as a cool story, but as a symbol for how our conventional wisdom can totally fall apart when we're facing a real health crisis.
I mean, think about it. We fill up our minds, our so-called backpacks, with all these popular theories, nutrition fads, little cognitive tricks we read about online. We're told, hey, these are the essentials. But the perspective in this book is that maybe, just maybe, we've been packing for the wrong trip this whole time.
So then, when we stumble, when the brain fog rolls in or that anxiety just grabs hold, we reach for those tools we've packed. But instead of a map and compass, we pull out what turns out to be just useless trivia. What we thought was a survival kit is actually just a collection of dead ends. And we're left stranded. So if our backpack is empty, what is actually going on inside our heads? This is where the book really shifts gears, moving from our knowledge to our neurology. And it introduces this idea of a brain that's just full of noise. Right, so the first big shift in thinking is this. We talk about the brain, like it's one single thing. But to really get what's going on, we have to zoom way, way in. We need to see it for what it is, this incredibly complex communication network made up of billions of tiny individual messengers.
And yep, those messengers are our neurons. They're the foundation for literally everything we think, feel, and do. They work by firing off these little electrical signals, passing information from one to the next in this perfect, seamless flow. When that system is working, well, everything works. But what happens when it doesn't?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide shows you the core problem. A healthy neuron, it sends a clean, clear signal. Easy. But a compromised neuron, according to the book, creates static and noise. That electrical signal gets weak or distorted. And here's the absolute key. This neural noise is what we experience as symptoms, from memory loss and confusion to anxiety and depression. It's not some vague concept. It's a literal communication breakdown.
So, what's causing all of this static? What's actually messing with our neurons in the first place? Well, the book points to a very specific list of culprits that it calls the brain betrayers.
So the book's claim is that the root causes of all this neurological suffering are very real and very physical. It points a finger at these betrayers that it says are invading our bodies and messing up our neural network. We're not just talking diet and stress here, we're talking about specific viruses like Epstein-Barr, which so many of us carry without even knowing it, toxic heavy metals like mercury and aluminum that build up from our food and our environment, and a whole bunch of industrial chemicals and solvents that are pretty much unavoidable in the modern world. And this really gets to the heart of the book's argument. The claim is that these aren't just abstract ideas or, contributing factors. No, they're presented as the direct physical causes of the static in our brains. It's a pretty bold claim, and it totally reframes the conversation from one about mental wellness to one about physical detoxification. Okay, so if the problem is physical, then the solution has to be physical too. And that brings us to what's probably the most hopeful part of all this, the book's proposed roadmap for actually healing and reclaiming your brain. The approach laid out here is a really clear three-step process. It's not about just managing symptoms. Step 1 is all about removal, actively targeting and cleansing those brain betrayers we just talked about. Get them out of your system. Step 2 is all about repair, giving your neurons the specific building blocks they need to start healing. And finally, step 3 is restoration, fortifying your brain with the right stuff to protect it for the long haul and get it back to firing on all cylinders. It's designed to be a direct, actionable plan.
When you get right down to it, this book is really more than just a health guide. It's a call for a complete shift in how we think about our own well-being. It's about charting a totally new path forward.
This quote from the foreword by Dr. Alejandro Younger really says it all, doesn't it?
It captures how the book positions itself. The information is framed as being way, way ahead of mainstream medical research, offering answers now for questions science might not even ask for another 20 or 30 years.
So the final challenge the book leaves us with is this. It's asking us to completely empty our backpacks of all that old, ineffective information. It's asking us to consider that maybe, just maybe, the source of our mental and emotional struggles isn't where we've always been taught to look, but in the physical and environmental stuff that's all around us.
And that really just leaves us with one last big thought. What if the solution isn't some new hack, or another trend, or another theory? What if the real key to saving our brains has been overlooked all this time, and the most powerful tool we have is simply knowing what to remove and what to put back in?